We're getting into our next conversation this morning. That is it necessary to have the Mulembe Nation coming together on this one position?
Yeah.
Like I said, it's always been that question about, okay, you have a lot of these people who never really seem to know which way to go.
Mm-hmm.
And who to stand by or who to unite with, and they've often done their politics in silos. And is it time for them to come together? We'll get into that conversation in just a little bit, because it's necessary for us to look at the intrigues around how all of this definitely is working, and whereby we say that it's the will of the people to go out and actually vote, that it is you to say and understand what everybody along the line should be doing, because then does the top leadership affect what's going to happen at the very lower cadres of leadership? Does it matter who then is your MCA? Absolutely. Does it matter who is your member of parliament? Yes, it does. Does it matter who is your county governor? Absolutely. Does it matter who is your woman rep? Does it matter who's your senator? All of those things matter across the line leading up to the very top of it, or whether it's from the top going down. And whether all those things are being taken into consideration is what we're talking about this hour. Now, we're going to get into that conversation this morning, and our guest is already seated for us to do that. And looking into Battle for Mulembe. Can the president woo the Mulembe ahead of 2027? Michael Ogwanda is a political analyst and joins us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Thank you for being here this morning.
My pleasure.
We're going to get into this conversation because it's, of course, one that's being had at the moment, and one that has been had for many years. It's not just a Bungoma Transoya over the weekend conversation, but that it's been had for a very long time. So let's get into that in just a bit. But you may or may not know that Dennis goes around the African continent every week. He comes back from a different African country with their proverbs. Then we get you to interpret them.
Yeah, today we are in Malawi. Capital Lilongwe and Blantyre is the largest commercial city. But when you think about the country is considered the warm heart of Africa because of the friendliness of the people of Malawi. Now, the country also has one of the greatest lakes in the continent, and that Lake Malawi, you just think about it, and it covers over 20% of the entire landmass of the country, and in there more species of fish than any other lake in the world. But the proverb that we get from the country: always remember, empty seats are better than wrong company. Always remember, empty seats are better than the wrong company. How would you interpret it?
Empty seats are better than long company.
Yes.
The good thing is I've been to Malawi, and I've seen the country, the hospitality. Majority of them are Bantus. So when they speak, you can, and you understand a little bit of Luya, you can actually understand them. But what that simply means is sometimes it is better to be still than have people that make a lot of noise but have absolutely no value, no importance, and can cause a lot of problem by what they say. And that's why, some people would rather just be in a quiet moment, in a quiet place, perhaps read a book, do something that empowers them and interests them, than having a number of people that may sound like you're popular, may sound like you are a go-to place, may sound like people are celebrating, but at the end of the day, it only hurts you.
Yeah.
Well said, well interpreted, Asante.
Indeed. So why is this Mulembe Nation talk so important?
Well, there are seasons in life, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to, celebrate, and a time also to work. Moments like this, moments that we consider and see every 5 years. People come up and they want to appeal to the electorate. They want to appeal to the country. They want to appeal to the people that they think need to listen to them because they want votes. Mlembe Nation, on the other hand, is a huge voting bloc in this country. But what I saw yesterday is something besides the Mlembe Nation that we want to talk about today. Is I saw Mlembe being represented in very different places in the country yesterday. I saw the Speaker of the National Assembly in Kisii addressing a crowd. I also saw Sifuna also coming up in Bungoma in a very big way. And I also saw Honorable Musalia Mudavadi with the president in Tesoland.
Yes.
And I also saw one CS Oparanya in another function in Kakamega. And they were all in different places. These are individuals that Mlembe Nation has been talking about, for I don't know how many years, except Sifuna coming in very recently to now Sifuna and Natembaya coming in very recently to sort of juggle around and see whether Mlembe Nation might be, leaning towards them. And so the first thing that came into my mind is we also know that Mlembe Nation has been very liberal in the way they've been voting in this country. They've not just been as an entire community voting for one single individual. In fact, there are cases where we can say the only person that perhaps brought them together, near together, is Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. But when you saw what happened in the last general election, it was also blamed, especially where the speaker comes from, the national speaker comes from, that if he had only gotten those votes, about 250,000 from that area, perhaps he would have been the president. And so the question that everybody is asking, that is this the first time that Mlembe Nation might be seeing things as a unit or as a community and forging ahead to vote for one single individual? Well, the answer is in what I have just described. When I saw Mlembe Nation and their leaders that are perceived to be the ones that need to give them the direction being in 5 different places the same day, and the day that one of their sons that they say now who wants to unify the Mlembe Nation was coming back home, and that is Bungoma. You'll imagine that perhaps the other individuals would have said, look, maybe we need to support one. Maybe we need to be together in one function. Maybe we need to be in this function. So we're seen to be in a team. But perhaps the strategy was not that. The strategy was a little bit to cast out wide and see how many congregations can be found. And I think that is a discussion today. Who got the biggest crowd yesterday? And I don't think the crowd in itself amounts to the votes. I don't think the crowd itself amounts to popularity. I don't think the crowd in itself also makes one to become the president.
Okay.
Because we've seen many crowds in this country, but those individuals, some of them have received those big crowds, were not elected as presidents in this country.
Yeah. When you think about the Mlembe Nation, we're talking about around 2.93, almost 3 million votes that everybody wants as we speak. And with where then President William Ruto finds himself today with Mount Kenya, Rigathi Gachagua saying, Imeenda, find elsewhere. Mlembe Nation then seems to be where he's focusing on together with Nyanza to get the votes that would then bring him back. But with the entrance of Sifuna now as we speak, it's seemingly slipping away. In one way or the other, pundits would say, Imeenda. But how much work must the president then put in to ensure that Mlembe vote does not leave his basket?
I want to give you a very important answer in this question. Sifuna in himself has not declared that he's running for president. And I want the whole country to know that Sifuna in himself still does not have a party that is a vehicle that will propel him to a presidential candidate in this country. And therefore, when people around him are telling him that you are now able to run for president, a question that you need to ask yourself is he being set up for failure, or are they trying to bite more than they can chew in this case? Remember, they're the ones who are telling him, you can run for president now. But him is not coming out to say, I want to run for president. Remember, he's the one saying that, all he's talking about is Lina Mwananchi. Little about, I want to run for president. In fact, at one point, I think, when people cornered him and asked him whether he could run for president, I remember him, saying, look, you guys want to finish me really, really soon. It's like, no, this is not where I'm going to. The crowd might perhaps give him a scenario or perhaps entice him to think that it's the right time for him to run for president. But in his inner heart, is he able to say that if I run for president, I will clinch the presidency in 2027? Remember, we're only having just a year to general election. Is he able to say, I can now mount a campaign worth its salt to ask Kenyans to make me the president? But that can also come with a vehicle for it. And I had Governor Orengo asking a lot of ODM members to support Lina Mwananchi. Lina Mwananchi in itself, even if we want somebody to support it, it's not a vehicle. It's not a registered party. And therefore, instead of perhaps saying, look, we need to go back to our places and endear our people to love what we are doing first, you're telling them to jump ship on a party that is non-existence in the first place. And so I'm coming back to what I was talking about. Yes, the president needs to really think about Mlembe Nation and the Luo Nation, and that includes even the Kisis, because those places, he can get votes. Definitely he will get votes. He's gotten votes before there, but he will get even more votes this time. But the question that we need to ask ourselves is, who are the foot soldiers on the ground? Because if the foot soldiers on the ground are doing what they are supposed to do, they're showing the development projects that perhaps the president has done in those places, and I know he has done a number of them, mending fences with electorates that they've had, in Mlembe Nation, bringing in some new energies and some new strength to campaign and do underground campaign. Perhaps we might see more votes than we've not seen before, but that cannot happen if you are being scared, by a huge crowd that is following Sifuna.
Is he scared?
Pardon?
Who'd be scared of the crowd here? The people, are we all saying, oh my goodness, what a crowd? And I mean, like you're saying, true. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It doesn't equate to votes. A crowd doesn't equate to votes. A crowd doesn't equate to a decision being made. But what does it mean? What do those numbers mean? Because we can't also run away from the reality that those people came out. Was it just for lack of something to do over the weekend? Or was it just, who's the flavor of the month and he's happened to make a visit to the West? What do those numbers mean?
One of the things that I say is Kenyans, sometimes we have a lot of idle people.
Okay.
And that's a reality. Mm-hmm. An accident takes place here, and you find 20, 30, 100, 200 people just standing there watching. And you're wondering, but these guys, they must have been going somewhere. And if they're going somewhere and they're late to wherever they're going to, and they'll stand there for hours and hours. Mm-hmm. And two, Kenyans love politics. They love politics. They love people who are antagonistic. They love hope. Kenyans want to hear something new. They want to hear what other politicians that have not had for a long time is bringing on the table and wants to tell them. And Kenyans also love actions, and especially when you talk about the Luyas and the Luos, mm-hmm. they love people who seem to be antagonizing the government in one way or the other. And so they want to hear something different. They want to hear something that looks like very, very antagonistic. And then the Luyas, if you remember, the Luyas and the Luos have led the demonstration in this country for many, many years. As a result, they still feel agitated to know whether something is new, is being brought. Remember this gentleman, Sifuna, is talking about the spirit of Raila Amolo Odinga in him. And if you had some of his, interviews, he's saying he doesn't know why God put him in a place to work with Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga for about 9 years as his SG. For that reason, people want to hear something new. The question is he going to appease the people that are crowding, the crowd that are coming to hear his story, and for how long?
Would you reckon that the people are hearing this new thing? Because his homecoming, one would say, is one among many other trips that he's made across the country. Remember Nairobi, in Kitengela. Remember as well in Mombasa. There was Kajiado as well when he went across the country. And with this, we continue to see crowds that let's say crowds showing up to listen to what he is saying. And even if you go to the social media where the young people are and they're saying, this is someone who's speaking our voice. Is that in one way communicating something to the powers that be, that perhaps the strategy needs to change?
Well said. The only thing I want to reference you on is when Didi Nyoro at one point called all the media houses. And the whole world was expecting a huge, announcement. It did not happen. Soon after that, I think the negative energy was more than the positive energy. When you've made the media know that you are having a homecoming and it will be like no any other homecoming, they are also expecting you to announce something. They are also expecting you to tell them something new that they have not heard from you, other than just Linda Mwananchi and Ruto must go. They're expecting you to hear something new so that they can also be part of that system. I did not hear that. Other than the same rhetoric that Ruto must go. I did not hear that. I did not hear them saying that we've now formed a party, because that is one of the things that people were waiting for, that perhaps he was going to tell them that we formed a party. So now we know for a fact that that homecoming had nothing other than, hey, look, I can run for president, and I can run for president even if I don't have the money. Forget about the narrative that you must have money to run for president. And so here is my bucket. Could you put some little money in it? Is that what the people in Bungoma wanted to hear and Kitale wanted to hear? I think they needed to hear more than that. How about rallying people to vote? How about not necessarily that, but how about a new thing that I brought on the table that Sifuna did not tell us yesterday? In my view, the vote, people, as I've said, people want to hear something new. But that new thing is not coming. It's the same rhetoric they've had before. And you've realized that the president is telling, look, it's the same thing. Your main agenda is the president must go home. It's one term. What is it that you're telling us new that we need to do? There are many, many issues in this country that I think the government need to look at. When you say you have the spirit of Raila Amolo Odinga fought for the new 2010 constitution, and he won. Raila Amolo Odinga was in jail for detention for 9 years, and he was out of it. Raila Amolo Odinga fought Section 2A in this country, and Raila Amolo Odinga fought for injustice of land issues. When he went to Mombasa, he was talking about land issues. What is Sifuna talking about?
Have we not heard
resonate with the people, that you can say, this is what this government is not doing well, and for that reason, we really feel that they need to be addressed. People also want issues to be discussed.
Have we not heard these issues come out? I'll make a list. Edwin Sifuna has talked about the right to not be disappeared and killed, Vijana Wetu. And there's a picture, not just a picture, there's a video of the man who stood in front of police officers with the guns that were shooting Kenyans down in 2024. And he stood before them and said, come on, guys, we don't have to do this. And it becomes the thing that he talks about to date, that stop killing and disappearing our young people. He talks about the fact that you can actually then work on a health system that works. He talks about the fact that corruption should be a thing of the past. He's a member of the PAC, that he sits in those committees week on end, and he talks about the fact that people's money should actually not be disappearing in the county governments, pointing to the devolution that you talk about. I could go on and on, but it's not as though the man stands in front of crowds and says absolutely nothing. It's not as though he divorces himself from the issues. And I keep talking about the fact that there's something that people say that they're looking to be liberated from. It's the people. And for some reason, if that hope was not being offered to them, a change from what they are currently going through, they wouldn't come out. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. All these things that you've mentioned, whether it is people disappearing, these are matters that need to be addressed in this government.
And he's addressing. He wants to address them. Does he not say that?
They must be addressed. But you see, when he's out there and is talking about the crowd, it is more about what people say that he needs to do more than the real issues that need to be addressed. You need to run for president. We'll support you. And so the center stage is not based on some of the things that you've mentioned, which are critical and which are being discussed from all quarters.
So it would make it easier from what you're saying. It would make it more palatable if Edwin Sifuna in Bungoma yesterday had said, I am running for president.
And this is my vehicle.
Is that okay? Does he have to have a vehicle? Does he have to have a party?
Oh, yeah, you have to have a party.
Why do you have to have a party to run?
Because
he can run as an independent, though.
He can run as an independent. There's no problem about it. But remember that anybody who wants to run for president in this country, you just don't want to be the president and have no minister, have no members of parliament, have no senators, have no governors, have no MCAs, because it is the vehicle that lasts. It's the vehicle that gives you the power in parliament to begin. It's the members that are elected in those assemblies that enables you to even look at some of your manifestos and see whether they're implemented. You cannot implement that if you're the only president and nobody's on your side. So that's really, really important to
Fair
me.
enough.
Because that also allows other people to say, do we join your vehicle or not? And what is your vehicle offering? What are some of the objectives that you want to address this country on?
So what if he comes up today, the 27th, after seeing what, they say a prophet is most known from his own home. So what if after he comes from where he's from and he's seen this thunderous welcome that he's received from his people and then comes today and says, okay, you know what? This is the party duly registered and this is what we're running on. Would you change your view?
I am not saying that I will change my view or not. All I am saying is he had a wonderful opportunity to seize and to tell the nation which direction he wants to go.
But Kenya still here. Kenya didn't disappear Kenya didn't disappear into orbit just because he went to Bungoma yesterday.
Yeah.
Guess what? The day has broken today.
Yeah.
And there still is an opportunity for him to come and say, okay, guys, I've seen what you're telling me. Here's the party. Because you've said that, first of all, you need a platform and you need a proclamation or an announcement. You say it's a missed opportunity, but that's the thing about opportunities. They come again. So if he has another opportunity to then say, okay, guys, this is the party. These are the people who are defecting. This is what they're defecting to. And this is what we're going to run on. You think he still missed the chance?
At that point, we will have that discussion. Because then people will see whether the Ford Kenya could still remain in a little part of Western, whether ODM will still be rattled a little bit if that will be the case. Whether Musalia Mudavadi can go to his Vihiga home turf and say, look, we are in UDA, and for that reason, I need these votes, for the president. It is important to know that all these people that I mentioned are very strategically placed in government.
Yep.
And they are all looking for votes for President William Samoei Ruto. And as a result, the question that you want to ask yourself is all those people that showed up there were ODM people, there were Ford Kenya people, some of them were also UDA people. And so you cannot say that all of them are going to be voting for Sifuna or all of them will be supporting Sifuna when the real time comes. And as a result, we are looking into these things and at the tail end, does it amount to votes? And if it amounts to votes, then if those people had different pockets and trust on different parties, then we cannot say that all of them will vote for Sifuna when Sifuna finally decides that I have a vehicle and I want you to come over this side so that you may vote for me. I think that's how I look at it. Because then we are perhaps propelling Sifuna or even forcing him to say something that he doesn't want to say.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't want to run for president. Maybe he's just working on behalf of the united opposition, or he's working on his strategy, not for 2027, perhaps even on 2032.
Or maybe not, because 2027 has been a date that has come out of his mouth very often, and we can't run away from that. 2032 has been a date that others, including the Super CS Mudavadi, has put out there, suggesting that should be the time he should run for. Take a setter.
Yeah. When we look at the Luhya vote for a very long time, the Luhya unity has been elusive for a very long time. And we look at the reasons behind that is because there have also been very many parties that come from the region where each and every single person wants to be a president with their party, with their vehicle, and that tends to fragment the region. But as we speak right now, many say maybe Sifuna is coming to bring these elusive Luhya unity once and for all, for them to speak in one voice. Is that a reality?
That's not a reality. Let me give you about 5 reasons why the Luhyas will never vote as a bloc. One is Luhyas have never had a presidential, or they've not had an individual that has captured the attention of the whole country as a presidential candidate. They've been working with the other parties. Now, for a community to rally behind one of their own as a presidential candidate, that candidate must capture the attention of the people first. That is what Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the late, did. He went out and went to every corner of this country. Then when he came back, he said, now I don't need your support, but you are part of me for the presidency. Now, when he went out there, he was looking for support. His people was already the vehicle that he was using. Most Luhya leaders who want to run for presidency are not running for president on their own volition, but in partnership with other people, or finding themselves in a place where now they're almost there, but they're not yet there. They're not coming out in time to run for presidency. And because they've not had a strong presidential candidate, that voting bloc has been divided. Remember, Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga used to get the entire Luo support because he was always running for president. As a community, they need to have a strong presidential candidate so that they can be unified. If not, they will vote however they want. Number 2 is Luhyas have many parties, or rather Luhya community have many parties. And some of these parties is also, emanating from their communities, whether they are, whether they are, the number of tribes within the Luhya community. As we say the Luhya community, we also know that there are a number of tribes in there. And some of those tribes, because of their culture, they're always together and they don't want to sometimes, vote in the same pattern as the other communities that perhaps they see in a different way. Number 3 is there have been senior politicians in the Luhya community that have always been self-seeking. They've been about themselves, I and myself. And as a result, the community have been thinking that you're not fighting for us. Once you get something, you're gone. You don't come back here to really, do development with us. And that strong man, also, number 4, is the strong man of Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, who was just a neighbor there and had a lot of influence in the Luhya community. And in fact, there are also some facts that they had some roots in the Luhya community. And because he was always running for president, the Luhyas felt that the presidency was near them with Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, by them having nobody else. And as a result, you could not perhaps, just wish him away in the western part of Kenya. He was there, and if he stood, no one else will dare stand against him. And as a result, he will get votes from western Kenya. The question that we want to ask ourselves now is who stands in the place of Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, who can get votes both from the Luo community, the Kisses community, and also the western part of Kenya. But that needs a lot of work, and it also needs a lot of track record. It also needs consistency. It also needs the buying of this community as a single individual, and that sometimes needs a lot of resources as well as people behind you. Remember, one of the things that Raila Amolo Odinga did well is to build a party that had a grassroots structure that even UDA do not have, that even many parties do not have. As a result, those structures were also embedded in western part of Kenya. And as a result, it was very, very difficult to have a presidential candidate that could be compared or even be near Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. Now he's not there. Perhaps the only person that we have that could also be able to unify people through ODM is the party leader of the ODM in this case. Leaders for themselves,
who's
as
the party leader?
Odinga?
Who's the party leader?
The party leader for ODM is Honorable Buru Odinga.
Is the one who's going to be doing these things that you talk about?
No. What I'm saying is perhaps the only person that could be seen to do that by the mere fact that ODM is still having a very strong hold in Western Kenya is the party leader of ODM.
Okay.
Because if you look at how many votes, how many members of parliament are in Western Kenya, ODM has a bigger chunk of MPs than any other party in that region.
Sifuna has been christened to embody the style, the charisma of one Raila Amolo Odinga, based on how he's even moving in terms of his campaigns through the Linda Mwananchi. You see him go to other areas first, speak to Kenyans across the country. He just came from his Linda Mwananchi homecoming in Bungoma. And with that, he continues to say, I will continue speaking to Kenyans before my announcement is made. And many would say he is seemingly uniting the Luhya community behind him, as well as other regions who are saying, we identify with Sifuna. Are we also looking, would one be wrong to say that what we are seeing with Sifuna is the people who are making him be who he is? It is the people who are making him be greater than many would be other leaders from the Luhya community who have been in the game for a very long time. Are the people making Sifuna be greater in Western region?
We have something called United Opposition now.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Sifuna, who says, Mimi ni Sifuna. As to whether he's part of this united opposition, no one knows. Or as to whether he's working in such a way that one day he joins the united opposition, nobody knows. As to whether he wants to be Mimi ni Sifuna by himself and form his own vehicle, devoid of this other opposition, congregation, no one knows. Now, that's what makes his quest for presidency a little bit elusive. Because what I'm looking at now is if I am rallying, I want people to rally behind me for a position in 2027. I would rather stand out there and say, Mimi ni Sifuna, but I'm an independent candidate and I'm going to run for president. Or Mimi ni Sifuna, but we are planning so that we make so and so the president of this country.
So maybe that's what makes everybody uncomfortable, because he's not saying it and the people are actually not ready for what could come if he does. And I'm going to ask a question that I asked earlier. There seems to be something very scary about people not knowing. And because you want to know, then you imagine that the idea could be less potent because you do not know. Because what we don't know sometimes scares us, doesn't it? So is there a possibility that because people don't really know and that there's a possibility that this thing could come and actually sweep the nation, then it's a bit uncomfortable?
Not really. Not really.
Because you want to know, you've said, we want to know now if he's going to be president. We want to know now which party he's going to run on. We want to know now who he's going to, we want to know now if the grassroots are going to be. And what it does is that it gives you a kind of certainty and a kind of comfort. And we don't like being uncomfortable, do we?
No. Raila Amolo Odinga, I'll give you an example. Mm-hmm. He said Kibaki Tosha. Mm-hmm. Everybody knew that he was the one going to run for president. Mm-hmm. Kibaki became the president. Mm-hmm. We want to figure out whether Sifuna will be the guy who wants to say Michael Tosha and then everybody votes for you.
Why?
Or he runs for
Because
the
from that
position.
example that you've just given,
Yeah.
Raila Odinga didn't say 2 years before that he's going to say Kibaki Tosha. For the whole time.
Yeah.
For the whole time he knew he
He had
was
a
going to be
history
president.
behind him of
But then
many years.
Yeah, but
that is
he's-
why people could trust him. for
Yeah,
that
but
reason.
he'd been saying he was going to be
And
president, and
then-
people believed that he was going to actually run for president.
sure
But at
enough.
the moment,
Sure enough.
3 months to the election,
Yeah.
he said Kibaki Tosha, and people went with him. If you're going to use that same example, you didn't know.
No.
You had no idea.
No. When Raila said Kibaki Tosha, he knew that the Luos and the Luyas will vote for him because they voted for him before.
But the point
for
here being that the
presidency, okay?
people did not, the
So-
point here being,
Yeah.
that the people that we're still talking about right now did not know that Raila Odinga was going to say Kibaki Tosha.
Correct.
Exactly.
But what I'm saying is he said Tosha, and it happened simply because he had a voting bloc behind him that had been tested and he was sure will back him. The question that everybody will ask, if he is going to be a kingmaker, which voting bloc is he having as a kingmaker? Are you understanding that? Now, if he's going to run for president, then he needs to figure out, but where am I going to get these votes? Because presidency alone cannot be delivered by Mulembe Nation. That we know for a fact that, in fact, that is a matter we are discussing here, is fragmented in terms of how they vote. Many parties, maybe not having a presidential candidate, and maybe having leaders that have been, really there for some times and are not resonating with the people. You understand this? So as a result, we are saying, look, if you do not have a vehicle and you're not saying what you want, then maybe you're just having fun. Maybe you're just having fun to see whether people are going to turn out and hear what you're saying and collect some little money out of it. All this can happen. And you might think they're really, really beautiful. But I'm repeating the same thing I said. Look, these guys that are coming to his rallies are UDA. Some of them are ODM. Some of them are Ford Kenya. Some of them are all manner of people that are registered in different parties. We've not seen people en masse registering or deregistering from a certain party and saying we are joining Sifuna. Because it doesn't have it yet.
Yep. But then again, there is the Monanchi as well, because if let's leave the political class, let's listen to what Monanchi is saying, right? And the people who are actually saying Sisi Nisifuna are Kenyans who show up to listen to what he's saying, are Kenyans who are giving him the pressure, one would say, to even run for the presidency. It is Kenyans who are telling him, we want to listen to you because you are speaking our language. Now, in all this equation, in all this conversation, one asks the question, why are we leaving the Monanchi away from the equation, yet they are the ones who are coming with the demands? Does that then change the game for Sifuna or for any other candidate out there, because Monanchi is seemingly standing with Sifuna and not anybody else?
I think what you're saying is where we all need to be. That when given an opportunity, we want to listen to every politician in this country and hear what they have for us. And I think they're doing the right thing. Attend those rallies to hear what Sifuna wants to offer them. After which, they make a decision whether to support Sifuna in his position or not. And that should happen to every political party in this country. And I am not saying this because, I'm thinking that a lot of people are going there. No. I am saying this because I really think that every politician must be put to task to tell the people what he wants to do for them. The question that you need to ask yourself is, when you're going around the country, then is your constituency the entire country? That means then you are either building only for two things. You're either building a political party, that is why you'll go all over the country, or you want to run for president. Okay? Now, then you need to be very clear that I'm here, but I'm not here just to jazz you with a lot of stories, just to jazz you with what is happening and what I want to do, but I am here so that I need your support. I need your support for this position. And to me, that is really, really key. So that you can see how many people are going to run from their parties they're registered in and say, look, I am going to register in his party, or I am going to support him in his quest. And I'm not saying that Sifuna cannot amount to be a presidential candidate. He can. But the question you need to ask yourself is, how does he want to sustain this narrative so that everybody can listen to him, but not just listen to him, follow him on what he wants. If he's not clear for now, and the story tomorrow might change, just as you said, It might change if he wants to do something and people feel resonated with it and people want to support him, they will. But for now, no one knows what Sifuna wants. And that makes us in this precarious situation. We are discussing Mlembe Nation, but the only known factors there is there's ODM, there's Ford Kenya, there's, I think there's a money party there. And some
does
other
Amani still exist?
Amani left.
Amani left.
Amani left the group.
Left the group. Those are still very strong entities in Western Kenya. And because he has not had a pie of this, we can't say that those crowds are his.
How much of a shake-up is he to even the established political parties with what he is doing? Because you look at Sifuna and you think about the majority of the population, the young people who identify with him. And if he can change these crowds, that support into votes, just how big a shake-up is he making, or a dent is he making in not only just the western part of the country, but to the entire country?
I would probably say once Sifuna gets a vehicle and we see this maintained crowd, Sifuna definitely will be on the table for discussion. That I see happening. But for now, without a vehicle or anything, no one wants to bring you on the table because your followers have not made a decision on what you want. Neither have they made a decision to follow you with your vehicle. That's how I look at it strategically. Because if we talk about Sifuna now and we don't know what he wants, then when he declares that this is what I want, and people say, oh, you still want to go to run for Nairobi Senate, then why were you coming all over the country? You know what I mean? As an example. So when he decides that this is what I want, then we can see the sustained group of people now going and saying we are committed to it. We can see registration perhaps in another party, because they've insinuated a possibility of having a party, but that is not there. No, here now, because it's not been announced, it's not been declared. No one knows what it is. I stand by talking about today. Tomorrow might change. And if he organizes himself very, very well, Sifuna will be on the table for discussion.
I want to go back to, because you mentioned, in this, how many parties do we have coming out of this part of the country? We can count them, and we may not even have enough. But that everybody seems to want to be part of something, but that is not unified in purpose. And that has been the case. I remember, maybe having not been here, but remember that there was a time when Raila Odinga had a conversation with Musalia Mudavadi, and he basically said, bring them as one number and we'll crack this thing. But it never really happened. What is the problem there? Because in terms of population, they've got the numbers, but there seems to be unity of purpose still far away. Why is that?
Well, we have the Banyores, you have the Bukusus, you have the different little communities. They have different cultures. They have fear and respect and to one another.
Maybe our assumption is even wrong that they should be uniting. It could be a wrong assumption in the first place. Sorry.
But I also think as a strategy, it's also been for survival purposes. So that if that individual is out of government, remember that we've had Musalia Mudavadi at the last moment running to Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta. You remember at one point? And then we also had Wetangula running his own party very, very quickly and joining Honorable William Somaya Ruto. We've had politicians that are strategically placed. So you stay there. ODM, just in case we get it, we are part of it. But by the way, these guys are very good friends. At the end of the day, they're very, very good friends. And you stay in Jubilee or UDA or whatever it is. So if you get it, we are also part of the system. I think it is also a strategy just to make sure that we are not left out 100%. That we can be part of any government that is formed in this country. And they've done very, very well with it. Western is absolutely, if you look at it in terms of road network and some of the development that are taking place there, they've really benefited quite a bit from the government. But I really think it is so critical for this government to get the votes in Western. The strategy on how they want to get those votes from Western as a bloc is what they need to use now. The only hiccup that perhaps we are seeing here, and I agree with you on this, once Sifuna makes his announcement on whether he will be running for president or not, then we have people have now to discuss on how you want to get those votes as well. Or if you are resolving that you're not getting those votes, then you need to figure out where you're going to get those equivalent votes that Sifuna is going to go away with.
Yeah. The Luhya vote has never been united. Even Raila Odinga tried, but he never really got it entirely. Now we look at even those who belong to the community have not managed to bring the entire batch in one basket. With Sifuna right now, many are also asking the question, because you also have other parties there who are also taking their share. With a united Western bloc, what would that mean to anyone who's running for presidency if he has all the votes backed?
You have a huge voting bloc, because Western Kenya have always voted in the same pattern with the Luo Nyanza, the southern part of Kenya. You look at it. So in terms of strategic planning for votes, you want to make sure that even if you don't get 100%, which is impossible, even in a mountain, Mount Kenya, even if you get maybe 90% or 80%, you're sure that you're also going to leverage with more votes from this southern Nyanza, and that is the Luo counties as well as the Kisii counties. They've always voted as a bloc, and that also is transferred all the way to Nairobi, and you see that their voting pattern in Western Kenya is brought to Nairobi, and they vote in a similar manner in Nairobi here. That's why you have a lot of members of parliament in Nairobi being more from the opposition more than the government. They've always tried to vote opposition. Now, I don't know exactly how the government is going to crack this, but it's something that have to be discussed. As to whether you are going to use some of these politicals, all politicians that have been there, I'm not saying that old in terms of age, but the ones that have run the show in Western Kenya, and hope that you're going to get a huge chunk of votes from them, that needs to be discussed. Because with the entrance of Natembeya and Sifuna, you need to figure out whether these people are going to continue holding on to the traditional old politicians or senior politicians in that region, or they're going to move to some of these newbies that are also speaking their language. You know, it's very funny that a number of these politicians, once they're elected, they make a home in Nairobi, and then they don't go back home. But counties have made it such a way that the governors, especially if I can mention Governor Natembeya, being really in the village and working with the people and walking with the people, and it resonates with the people. At that point, you will rule him out at your own peril. At your own peril. And so these are some of the individuals and the dynamics that have come up that needs to be looked into. You still need votes from Western. You may not get exact number you want, but you still have to invest there to get the votes there.
Yeah.
Okay. Even as we look at obviously there's still a lot in terms of conversation that needs to be had, and at this point we have to come to the end of this conversation at this point, but still want to look into still a lot of engagement that needs to happen. We want to thank you for being here with us this morning to have this conversation with us, Michael Asante Sana, and as we talk again. Good morning, folks.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.